Hi, and welcome to another month on Thoughts of Leadership. This month I've tackled an issue that I know has been going around for a while in this modern day and age. More and more people are being managed remotely. What do we mean by managed remotely? Well, their boss is in one location and they are in another. So maybe you as a manager have people who are working off more than one site. Maybe it's 3, 4, 5 different sites. And it's not only sites as in premises, but it could be geographically in terms of countries. So, I get managers saying, well, one of my guys is in Singapore, one of my guys is in New York, and one's in Glasgow, and I'm based in London. And it can be more than just 3 or 4, of course. And it can be teams in different sites. So how do you manage people that you don't have that day-to-day contact with? Because it's easy when you see them every day. There's some of that informal discussion. There's some of that, just seeing and noticing what's going on. So the fear here, I think, is: do they know what they're doing? Are they doing it? Are they taking me for a ride? And most of all, I think, if things are going wrong, since I'm not going to be able to see them, will they tell me? Because if they're not telling me, then I may only find out when it's too late. And so the issues come around, well, how do I measure them? How do I keep an eye on them? How do I keep tabs on them? There's all those issues that surround that. So I'm going to try and explore some of them with you in this Thoughts on Leadership, give you a few questions to think about, and hopefully give you some pointers that may help you in that process of leading and managing at a distance. As with any form of leadership and management position, it's down to preparation. How much do you prepare, lay the groundwork for your relationship with people? We all know, good management is about setting objectives with people. It's about giving them the support they needed. It's about communicating with them. It's about giving them the development they need. Measuring progress. The point I want to make is, if you believe and understand that that's important, times it by 10 when it comes to remote people. It's exactly the same principles that are required here. The principles of making sure they're focused, making sure they're clear about what they need to do, making sure they've got the skills to be able to do it, communicating with them. All of those things are important, but they are 10 times more important when they are distant and detached from you. You see, somebody who's remote from you, somebody who's in an office with you, let's take the person who sat in the office with you. You can see if they're going off track. You can see if they're being distracted. You can see if they're not being focused on what they should be doing. You can see if things are getting too much for them. You can see if they look like they're making a mistake. So there's so much stuff that you can actually see there that if your communication isn't perfect, well, you'll pick up if something's going wrong. When it's remote, you don't see any of that. You're not in contact with any of that. And so when we talk about preparation and getting them focused, understanding what they need to do, is even more important in this remote situation. So consider in these situations, what do you need to communicate with them, and how do you need to go about communicating with them? What is it when you're setting up objectives with them, don't just put simple measurements in place. Put measurements that allow you to understand when things are going wrong, and they buy into those with you. It's a lot more about letting go with them and moving further away. It becomes even more important when dealing with these people who are remote. Of course, the real issue comes back to how are you going to choose them and recruit them in the first place. And I think the fact that they are meant to operate remotely from you requires you to think differently about the recruitment process. It's the same recruitment in certain aspects, but you've now got the added thing of, is this the type of person that can be operate without someone being around them? Because there's some people who just can't. Some people that need that human interaction. Some people need to be bouncing off ideas of people and talking about things. Some people just cannot work on their own. And as somebody, you ask many people who go self-employed. I've set up my own business a number of times. The discipline needed to get up in the morning and go to work when you haven't got somebody standing there over you or expecting you in at a certain time is a discipline that many find very foreign to them. Some are very good at it. Some take it like a duck to water, but some don't. So let's go back to the recruitment process and say, when you're recruiting, make sure that this is a person who can do this. And let me be warned, there's many who say, oh yeah, I can do this. Yeah, great. Which, when it comes down to it, can't. So how self-motivated are you? How disciplined are you? How focused are you? Those are the type of questions you need to be asking somebody at the recruitment stage of the process. But let's say that you haven't got a choice of a recruitment stage. Let's say that you've already got somebody, and here you're in a position where these people, you're having to lead them and manage them at a distance. Well, I'm the big one for being straight up and honest with people. Sit down with them and ask them, how do you want to be supported? What do you want from me? How do you want me to keep you informed? What do you need to know? Talk through these things with them and get their perspective on them and ask them those sort of questions. And then there's the other side of the coin. When you've extracted that information from them, then your role is to sit down with them and say, now look, this is how I want you to communicate with me. This is what I want in return. So it's going to be very much clearer, and explain to them, say to them, I'm distant from you. I don't know if you're struggling. I don't know if you've got an issue. I don't even know if you're pitching up to work on time and getting working the time you should be spending on jobs. So I have to trust you. So this is what I need from you so that I know I can trust you. And so when I'm asking you for these feedback, when I'm asking you for this information, when I'm putting these measurements in place, it's not because I'm trying to catch you out. It's because I need that reassurance. At the end of the day, I'm accountable for what you're doing. And that open, honest, frank discussion that takes place is what I believe is absolutely necessary. Managers tend to be too quick at delegating. Even on a face-to-face in the same office environment, managers tend to delegate far too quickly. And when it comes to remote people, where it's meant to be, it's 10 times more important, if you like, so that it takes that much longer with somebody. And so when you are touching base with them, when you are communicating, when you are asking them things, then make sure they understand that this is you seeking reassurance from them as much as wanting to give them the reassurance and support they need to do their job. And so the whole conversations you have with them, whether it be over phone or by email or whatever it is, should be two-way. In other words, you need to be very clear that you are listening to what they're saying as much as you are telling them. And it's very easy, particularly when in the case of email communication, for things to be misconstrued or misunderstood. So don't underestimate the power of picking up the phone and phoning them. Now, people say, well, I'm overseas, there's so many people and everything else. For this day and age when things like Skype, voice over internet protocol is available, it's so much cheaper to be able to do any of these sort of things. But it doesn't have to be a long conversation with people on the phone. If you do have to physically phone them up, phone them up and say, look, this is a short conversation unless you need me for longer, but I want to hear your voice, I want to hear that you're okay, and I wanted you to have the opportunity to ask me questions and hear my response and not rely on assuming what I meant in the email, because emails are so dispassionate. So it's a matter of thinking a lot more actively about how you're going to deal with people. It's very much more clarity and measurements that need to be considered. and a lot more probing needs to be taking place, but also acceptance of probing, encouraging of probing coming from their side in the process as well. So, one last comment, and then I'm going to give you my questions for the month. Be careful also when you find that you have got one person who's remote and you seem to have got it right with this person. It seems as though you can just speak to them once a month or once a quarter verbally, and the rest is done by emails, and you can visit them once every 6 months or something like that, and that's all that's needed. Hey, this must be the formula. Let me just warn you about that. That's the formula for that person. Each person is very different. So how you handle this one person who you think, well, I've seemed to found the magic formula, this person's just right, so if I apply that to everybody, just because that person is handled that way and you're successful, it doesn't mean the next person is going to be, or the following person. So it's a voyage of discovery. It's about finding each individual and what is it about this person? How do they want to be supported? How do they want to be managed? How do they want to be led? How do they want to be encouraged? How do you want to be communicated? And it's taking the time to find out about each one of those it gets very important in terms of leading and managing people. So, questions for this month? Well, I've got a few for you. I would ask you this: how good are you at managing and leading your people remotely? Be honest, engage yourself, and get them to give you that feedback as well. Do you know how they need to be supported and communicated with so that you can get the best out of them? Are they absolutely clear about what they need to be doing? And here's an important one: can they measure their own performance? The more remote they are from you, the more it is important that they need to measure themselves. They not need you. I mean, that applies anyway, I personally believe, but more so with people remotely. They need to know how they're doing. Do they know how to get hold of you if they need to? And do they know your personal expectations of what you want from them so that you feel informed, that you can trust them, that you feel that you know that they're doing the job right? I would really love to hear your points in this area. If you've got ideas of how you've managed people remotely and how it's worked, then I would be really interested in that. And so please feel free to email me and tell me of your experiences. In the meantime, I hope there's been some interesting points in here for you this month. I hope the questions have got you thinking, and I wish you all the very, very best for the coming month. All the best now. Bye.